Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video we are going to kick off the, look at and creation of the priority queue, starting in this video with look at. What is a queue and why a priority queue?
Okay, well, a queue is a line. End of story. Now, if you were, British, you would be all over a queue because I think they'd love that word.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've ever been in a bank line, a line at a grocery store, an amusement park, anywhere where the first person in line is the next person that gets to do something,
Mm-hmm.
that is a queue. So a queue is basically a first in, first out data structure.
Okay.
And the cool thing is, in .NET, we get one. So if I bring one up and let's do the generic version of it. So let's make a queue of strings. So we've got a new queue. And technically, I could probably just go in here and make it a var.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it nice and clean. All right, so we've got a queue. Now, a queue, unlike a regular list, we're not going to be adding and removing things to it in the normal sense. We can't go queue.add. We can't do queue.remove. It just doesn't exist. What we do is if you want to put something into a queue, you enqueue it.
Okay.
So we can enqueue something like hello. And then we can go and do the same thing several more times. So guess what's coming next? You're wrong.
I was thinking cruel. Hello, cruel world.
Yeah, I thought it was goodbye, cruel world.
You could say hello as well.
All right. So we can put a bunch of elements into our queue. And if we want to get them out, or just print them to the screen, we can do a write line. Now, to get something out of a queue, if we enqueue something, we need to dequeue something. So I can call our queue and then just do dequeue. Now, dequeue is an interesting little thing. Why are you going to be
Well,
upset? Oh, yeah.
I was about to say it's a method, so we
Yeah,
might
it might
want to.
help if I actually complete the method.
Right.
Now, dequeue is a little bit interesting in of itself. It's not like accessing an element inside of a list. When you dequeue, you are reading what is in the very first element of the queue, and you're removing it after you read it. So it's a read it followed by a remove.
Okay.
So if I were to do another write line right after this one, and let's say I were to, in this particular case, just get a account back.
You might want to go in there and put your curly braces and a zero and a comma.
Yeah. Or I could just do that.
Or you can do that.
And let's see. let's do this one slightly different. Wow. And again, the reason I can do this is because our queue, when we dequeue something, is going to remove it from the list.
Mm-hmm.
So our count is always going to be decrementing. So while we are greater than 0. All right, so let's hit play and see what happens. It's going to flash. Oh, it ran great. It did exactly what I told it to.
Or run to cursor or something like that.
Yeah. Just to slow it down so people can see it.
Yeah.
Picky. So it says, hello. There are now 3 items left. How? And then 2 items left. Are 1 item left. You. 0 elements left. And it comes out in the order that we put it into. So if I were to take any one of these and move it somewhere else and run it again,
mm-hmm.
it now shifts our order.
Okay, pretty simple.
Now, right. Now, if we were to do something different, let's say we just wanted to look at the element, but we didn't want to remove it, we can do a different technique. Because sometimes it's useful to look and see what the very next item is going to be, but we still want to leave it in the queue. So let's say you just wanted to, you had a list and you're going, all right, what's next? But don't mess with it. I just want to know what's coming up. Mm-hmm. So I can make sure that whatever we're working on is in a state ready to deal with the next item. So we can do a peek. A peek will return that item without removing it. So if I run this, we get our first element. We still have 4 items left.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one dequeues it, so our count goes down. We get our element, our number stays the same, then it removes it, and as you can see, we're reading it twice, but every time we peek it, it still stays in the list, or in the queue. Mm-hmm. It hasn't removed it. But the moment we dequeue it, it gets removed from that list. Now, this in of itself is a very useful data structure for certain things. And it's useful enough that I want our entire threading system to be based around a queue. But I want our threading system to be a little bit more robust in the way it prioritizes which threads are getting run. So to do that, that means the queue structure that I want to use has to be more robust. I want to use something known as a priority queue. A priority queue is a queue in which we can organize which items take precedence. As you've seen with the last couple of examples that we ran, the order of which the items are returned are in the order they went in. The first ones in are the first ones out, all the way through, and as we remove, we get the next element. What I want to be able to do is add things into a queue and say, this is a high priority element. I want this to be run before any of the lower level priorities happen. Mm-hmm. So if I were to enter in, say, 3 different items, one being a low priority, one being a medium priority, and one being a high priority, even if I were to add the high priority item at the end of the list, I want that to be the first one returned.
Okay.
And then I would want the medium to be returned second, and then the low be the very last one to be returned. Now, along with that, if there are multiple elements that are of the same priority, At that point, I want those returned in a first order or first in, first out method.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got 5 different things that are high priority, the first high priority that was in the list is the first one I want back out. Now, that type of structure does not exist by default in .NET. So that is what we're going to be spending our time in these first several videos, is constructing this priority queue. Now, we're going to do this in such a way that if you need a priority queue for anything, you'll be able to use this priority queue. So it's not going to be married to the threading system. So you're not going to have to go, oh, well, if I need a priority queue, but I don't need the threading part, I need something completely different. You'll be able to go, just take this priority queue and use it anywhere else in anything that you might need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we will accomplish that using generic lists. In fact, we'll be using 3 different generic lists. One that will be for our high priority elements, one for medium, and one for low. Now, I'm only implementing 3 levels of priority. So the specs that I've been playing with, I don't really see a need for going any more complicated than 3 levels of priority. So we're going to be hard coding it that way. That doesn't mean that if for some reason you needed to have the ability to have nth number of levels of priority that you couldn't code your system to accommodate that. We're just not going to take that extra step. We're just going to code it for the 3 levels and call it good.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I guess that's pretty much everything we needed to take a look at here, huh?
yes.
All right,
And then
awesome.
in the next video, we'll start setting up to skeleton in our priority queue class.
Cool. All right, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that will conclude this video. Thanks a lot.